we have Sujitha Menon. She is a licensed master social worker, and she's a great source. She is an energetic force from Singapore who brought her passion for social justice and life to Houston. From pioneering gender-specific programs for justice in all girls to authoring books and leading progressive initiatives. Sujitha's journey from social work to program director exemplifies putting purpose into action, right? So finding your purpose and putting it into action. Dedicating an unwavering commitment to making a difference in the lives of marginalized youth. So part of Ascent, and I have Sujitha come up here, and part of Ascent's mission is not only to develop leaders, but also give back. And Ascent here is a big component of it. And so I thought it would be great to hear from someone who's doing that actively and share her story. So very excited, and then I will have a 5-minute Q&A after she's done. So.
Well, thank you so much, Seema, for that lovely introduction and for the lovely invitation to be here to share my story. I only have 20 minutes, so I'm going to stick to the theme. There's a lot to talk about, but I'm really excited to share my story today. So my name is Sujitha Elizabeth Menon, and I'd like to share how I got to where I am today. And I'll start with a visual of various parts of my life. And I think this is it probably doesn't come out as clear, but I will start with where I'm from. So I was born in Singapore 4 decades ago. So the top left corner is the Singapore flag. And my dad moved to Singapore from Kerala at the age of 10, and my mom was born in Singapore. So I kind of consider myself a second generation Singaporean Indian. And I had both Hindu and Christian roots. So I had to kind of find my faith myself, right? And so at the age of 11, I walked into a church myself, and that's what changed the trajectory of my life. And where I found my purpose and joy. And so that's what the cross is about. And really, the next picture on the top right is a picture that depicts my life vocation, which is working with people. And how I knew that I wanted to work with people was really at a very young age. I was a youth leader in my church, and I just loved listening to people's stories, and I loved, just sitting with them and being part of their journeys. And then I realized that this could be my life like forever. Is there something I could do with my life that allows me to keep doing this? And I didn't know what social work was about. It was really interesting because, as an Asian, you've heard this since the start. Our parents tell us that we need to be what? Doctors, lawyers, engineers. And so I had the very same narrative. And I thought to myself, though, how could I even achieve that when I couldn't even pass my math and science? I was doing so poorly academically that I just could not imagine that to be my future career. And so nobody ever knew what social work was about, right? That's just a career that nobody really knows about. Is it really a reputable career choice? And if I couldn't even pass my math and science, what should I do, right? And so I really struggled till I was 15 years old, and that's when I realized that the reason that was the case was that I was a late bloomer, and I really struggled with symptoms of ADHD, and that prevented me from being focused. And it was really not until I came to America 8 years ago, and that's when we moved. To do our master's and PhD, and who knew we'll be here 8 years later, but we're still here. And I started learning about ADHD as a diagnosis, and then with the help of my parents, with the help of multiple tutors, and overwhelming support from my church community, I learned multiple strategies to overcome these struggles. And so really studying really hard day and night so that I won't fail. And I knew that that's something everybody probably has experienced too, right? You just have to study and study and study. It's just part of how our parents kind of raised us. And I didn't realize that by doing that, it really helped me to get ahead and really do the best that I can for whatever's going to come next. And so I graduated. I went to university. I graduated, and then realized that that itself was a start of many more opportunities to really role model for people who struggle academically. And I had a very soft spot for that, right? I had a very soft spot for young people who struggle in their lives, trying to get themselves ahead academically and really kind of navigate different spaces. And so my story was featured in the local newspapers, in the Indian TV news channel, and then I realized, oh, maybe that could help somebody else learn that it is possible to succeed. Because truth be told, when you're Asian, academic success is a thing. It is a big thing, and our parents, our family expects us to at least get a diploma or a degree to show that you're successful. And so I was admitted into the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at the National University of Singapore, and I was given the chance to decide which path should I take and go down. And I didn't know what social work was at that point, but I knew that I wanted to help people. And so I did all the kind of courses that allowed me to do that. So psychology, sociology, social work, and I would say social work won my heart, and really spoke to the mission that I thought I was meant to do. And purpose, right? So there was no turning back. I really did social work all the way, from bachelor's, master's, and PhD, and realized that my direct and my indirect work and life experiences has really allowed me to form my mission, which now is to tackle some of life's really hard-pressing problems, and really bring in evidence-based programs to help the community succeed. So educating others as well and training others also mattered to me, which really led to the publishing of the children's book. That's the one at the bottom. And I would say my daughter, Anya, really inspired me to do this. And I realized that not many people knew what social work was about. And so I really wanted to create more exposure and awareness. And so the title of the book was I Am a Social Worker, Let's Learn to Advocate. And this title really spoke to my heart because advocacy was a big thing. And growing up, I think a lot of people, you may have people who advocated for you, your mentors, or people who just believed in you and wanted you to move ahead. And I really thought advocacy was a really neat title for learning the role of a social worker. So yeah, and thinking back from the age of 12, I just really wanted to help people. And I didn't plan to get a PhD, didn't plan to move to America. However, in the decade of being a social worker in Singapore, I discovered the value of helping people and empowering them to lead more meaningful lives, and that became a bigger purpose. If I had the support of the community and the grace and mercy of God, to be honest, I should share that with others and be part of their journey too. So in 2012, I had the chance to start a residential home for young girls who would stay with us for about a period of a year on probationary conditions. And that's when I realized the deep pain and trauma that people experience. I really was the house mama to these girls, and they really let me into their lives because they live with you, right? So they become very close to you, they share that deep pain. And I felt at the end of 4 years of doing that work, I felt the need to be better equipped to help them, especially young people, so that they could realize their dreams and see that, I can have better things for my life and better things for myself. And so that's when, and that question really drew me to Houston, right? I wanted to really know what else can I do to help these girls? What else can I do to help them stop choosing the life of crime and decide that they want something better for themselves? And so in 2016, my husband and I, who were then married for 2 years at that time, and we were living long distance, we decided that we were going to make this big move to Houston to pursue our master's degrees. And Houston is an oil and gas state, and my husband is a petroleum engineer. He just came in over there, is right at the back. And he's a petroleum engineer, and then we had to kind of think of where do we go, right? So Houston was a natural city for us to move to. And like I mentioned, we never thought we were going to be here for as long as 8 years, and even both pursue our PhDs and actually have our beautiful daughter Anya 7 years ago. And through this process, we realized one thing remains the same, right? Our purpose remains the same, and both of us continue to pursue our passions and purposes. And it didn't come easy, right? It didn't come on a silver platter. There were multiple challenges and barriers, some of which I've already shared, but I'll move the screen, there's a big sense of which, being Asian and international, it was very hard to, as a social worker, to understand the generational and historical context of people who've experienced life in America. There were systemic issues, there was a high level of poverty, and there were just so many different things that I had no idea about. And so I came in really realizing that, culture plays a significant role in how we communicate and interact with others. And so I had a lot of difficulties understanding my young people's slang, their lingo, their references, and I had to ask them, can you please repeat yourself? What does that mean? Can you please tell me again? And I realized I had to be a learner. I had to learn their lives. I had to learn everything that they had talked about, and with no experience or context with the cultures, I thought to myself, how can I ever help people if I am not of the culture and understand what they're saying? And even though I had 10 years of social work experience, it really didn't matter here. Because at the end of the day, my clients are people, and people are part of their culture, they have a historical context, they have a lot of different things that they bring with them. So I faced an internal barrier and what we call imposter syndrome. Am I good enough to do this work? Am I good enough to help people? And then I had one thing that I had to do was I had to listen with my heart, right? And that's the first thing that I put myself forward. I have a lot of experiences with very difficult youth, right? Youth who challenge you and who want to listen to you. And I knew that I had this one thing that I do, which is to persevere through and to pursue them, right? So one of my youth actually said this. He said, no one has ever pursued me like this. You made it to my front door when nobody else dared to. Like I could have never imagined what that meant, right? But this youth came back to school and continued to look forward to seeing me because I was there. So then I thought to myself, it was worth it because all that I needed to do was to love, right? And to really be able to listen to my heart and to pursue them for the time that they needed me to help them with that stuff. And so I was convinced that my purpose and passion is to really help people. And so when I was doing my PhD, I joined a nonprofit and I started as a risk assessment specialist. So I got to know kids in the high school here. And I had the chance with the help of my CEO to develop a new program. And that was the program that was mentioned, Voices. I took the risk. I decided to write my first federal grant. And lo and behold, we got the grant, I started the program, and then I became program coordinator, and from one grant we went to 4 or 5 different grants, and then that's how the whole youth justice department was formed. And I remember someone said in the panel earlier, right, like you don't have to wait for things to happen, you can create. And I really resonate with that because you can, if people are not going to give you a chair at the table, you just drag your chair and put it there. Sit down at the table, you find your space and create what you are most passionate about. And I think really combining my experiences working with these young girls on probation and my research from my PhD, these grants are now actively working in the nonprofit. And I really am convicted about this statement that says, a single action really can lead to wide-reaching impact. Sometimes you really need to take a small step of faith and turn your purpose into action. It could take, you a couple of tries, a couple of minutes or hours, an hour a week. You could be someone's mentor. You could help a neighborhood look cleaner or safer. Or you could adopt a grassroots organization who could use startup funds to keep their work going in the community. But whichever step you choose to take, know that it will have a ripple effect in the community beyond you can imagine. So the girls that I used to work with in 2012, right now, these young women are business leaders. And I think to myself, wow, I would have never imagined 10 years ago that, I took that small step of faith to work with them and give them resources, even set up a scholarship fund to help them academically. And they're doing so good now, but I could not see that before. And this ripple effect sometimes takes years to come, but it is worth it. And your action can truly help someone find a different path in life. Have you ever felt like you wanted to do something more meaningful that all you do sometimes is work from 9 to 6 and something is missing, I'll assure you that giving back to the community will bring joy and life to you more than you can imagine. I'd like to share the last two quotes with you. Maya Angelou before I go there, what I mentioned earlier was about these three things that I'd like you all to take away with you. We can learn to see each other and see ourselves in each other and recognize that human beings are more alike than we are unalike. And this is one of Maya Angelou's really important quotes because with three different themes: intentionality, which is really being intentional in what you're doing and how you are doing and helping others; authenticity, being true to yourself and being vulnerable, to be open to sharing who you are with others; and compassion and love. These three things will help you transcend all the barriers you have. Like I mentioned, culture, imposter syndrome, all of that, help you transcend all of that and really help you to impact somebody's life. There's another quote that she had talked about that is really popular. If you've never read Maya Angelou's work, I really recommend it because it says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And with intentionality, authenticity, compassion, and love, you can truly help someone feel that they have a better shot in life, that they can do it just like you did, that they have someone who loves and cares for them. Because most of the time, people just want to be loved, heard, and seen and understood. And I truly, truly believe that all of you have a part to play and that you can contribute back to society and turn your purpose into action. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think sometimes we forget, it's easy to volunteer sometimes when you're in school and you get into the corporate world and your life is kind of consumed by work, right? Who feels that way sometimes? Okay, well, I felt that a lot, and I think one way to feel a little bit of joy and give back the knowledge and the things that you've learned is to volunteer and give back to your community. So I hope, who here has an organization that they're really passionate about and love and volunteer with? Is there a few? Okay. Yeah, for example, one of the organizations I've worked with for many, many years is Junior Achievement, and giving back to students to learn about financial literacy. And like you said, you never know the impact, the ripple effect that you're really making. And so I really appreciate you sharing your story and how you've pivoted your life in service to help others. I mean, that's a testament to, so that means a lot. So any questions for Sujitha while we have her on stage for a few more minutes? Yes, we have one over here.
Thank you for sharing. It's going to be a long background, but I know you have the compassion about caring for you. And you also mentioned that sometimes they can be difficult, they don't listen to you. And even for me, right, when I see kids and they don't listen to me or when I don't help them, I was like, I was once a kid and how did people deal with me? So what paused at that moment when you have to deal with difficult kids? What paused do you think to help you overcome that uncomfortability, grow with love and deal with them? How do you do that?
No, thank you so much for that question. I feel like sometimes that work is so much like parenting, right? Like you have kids who want to listen to you sometimes, But I would say this is the thing that I would recommend. Consistency, right? A lot of the kids who are what you call quote unquote difficult, I don't believe they're difficult kids. I think they just have behaviors that exhibit some form of traumatic experiences before. So that's like a defense mechanism. I think one is consistency. Stay consistent in your pursuit of the people you're trying to help, right? Don't just go one time and then think your job is done. Because sometimes people need to see you show up for them more times than none, right? So I would also say this, when you talk about kids who have more difficult behaviors, they expect adults to leave them. They expect the adults to not continue to pursue them and give up on them. And when I see kids come through the justice system, that is really a very common narrative, right? Like nobody wanted to try something different or stay with them or keep loving them. How hard it is to love people when they are difficult, right? But I think consistency is a big part of it. And I think, like, I guess for me, I believe strongly that like God loves me, so I have to love others. Or rather, like I want to love others. That's a love that I carry from that kind of angle spiritually. And so I try and keep that love contained for the person, and to make sure that I tell the person that I love them for who they are, and they don't have to change for me, but that they can be safe with me when they share what they're trying to share.
Just on that as well, I don't know if anyone's read the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but one of the habits in that book is seek to understand before being understood. And there's an example where a dad is saying, I'm trying so hard to understand him, I'm telling him what to do, but he's just not getting it. And somebody asked him the question, it's like, well, shouldn't you be listening to what he's saying before telling him what to do? Like, shouldn't you be seeking to understand? So sometimes, right, it's about being patient. A lot of young people especially, you know, we've all been there, is you're trying to articulate feelings and understand yourself, and that takes time to be able to get out. And so being patient and really listening and asking them questions to understand them. That goes for all contexts of work and you know, but I think especially with children, right? So I think that's another little tidbit there. But any other questions for Sujita before we wrap up here? All right, well, thank you so much for being
Thank you so
here.
much, Sima.
and sharing.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I also want to especially thank my family, Anand and Anya, who are sitting in the back. Thank you so much for coming, and they continue to be my source of inspiration, and I really am thankful that they're here